Hey homies, welcome back to the Homegirl Astrology YouTube channel. I'm Ebony, the founder of Homegirl Astrology. We support Black women in returning to themselves to unlock their full potential, creating a path toward purpose and joy. In a recent video, we discussed the second house of money and material resources in astrology, aka how to get to the bag, okay? Today we're going to dig a bit deeper into the topic of money with a special guest, Miss Rosalyn Brown. Rosalyn is a retirement strategist, diversity advocate, and financial manager. She's also the founder of Your Wealth Guidance, a Facebook group that supports Black women in educating them and providing a safe space for them to learn about how to achieve financial independence. This is a Homegirl Astrology First. I'm excited to begin collaborating with other Black creators and spotlighting dope people like Rosalyn. I can tell you she is as cool as a fan. Representation truly matters, and we can all learn from each other. In this video, we'll learn about Rosalyn's inspiring journey, what motivates her, and we'll also get some tips and tricks on financial independence along the way. I trust that the homies, you all, will find wisdom, motivation, and some nuggets to take with you from this conversation. So stay tuned to after the beat drops to hear from Rosalyn. I'm so excited to have you here, Rosalyn Brown of Your Wealth Guidance. I would love to kick off with an introduction, just to hear from you about, yourself, your background, and how'd you get into the career that you're in, working in the financial sector?
Almost by chance. My major as a kid was accounting. And so that's what I went to school for. And I interned in accounting and I found that it was quite boring for me. It could have just been where I was, whatever. But I was also interning at a bank just because they offered me a decent amount of money. So it was like either you work in fast food, you tell how old I am, for like $5 and change, or I can make like double that at a bank. So it was like going to the bank. And so I stayed at the bank, worked through all my college time. And then I also then started with another bank in wealth management straight out of college. And so it was a great opportunity for me to use other people's life and where they were, because typically by the time they came to me, it was because they already had an endpoint in mind. They were like, I'm retiring in 5 years. And then I got to be the person at 22, 23 to say, if you only plan to live on 2 years of your current necessities, sure, you can retire in 5 years. And it was a great opportunity for me to take notes on what people who were successful were doing and what people who weren't. Because sometimes people would make a lot of money and they had no money left over, no assets. And it still took away their freedom. And so people who had the most freedom to try and do were the people who really created different sources of income, understood how to save, and I would literally just take notes in the margins and say, okay, I gotta make my life look more like this so I can have more of the freedom too.
You're so smart. So even before you got into accounting, I'm wondering kind of what brought you to that point. And just one of the things that I've been thinking about more is memories related to money. So what were some of your earliest memories related to money?
So it's funny, my mom says I was born with my fist clenched and I never opened them. So I was always really conservative with money. But one thing I remember, my mom would give me money for lunch every week. And then she would go to work before I went to school. So then I would fix lunch and keep that money. And
Wow.
so that's how I had savings. And then I would take that money and buy candy and resell it at school.
Okay. Then
So then I was able to buy. I remember one of my first big purchases was a pair of high heels, and I was probably in like fifth grade or something. But I have money, and so it's my money to spend as I would. And I remember mom was like, "Hell no, you're not wearing." But it really let me know that when you go to the store with your parents, you have to do whatever it is that they say. You have to buy whatever it is that they say you can buy. But when you have your own money, you can walk to the store. Nobody's going to ask you any questions about where you got this money from or what your mom approved. And you can buy stuff. And it really made me understand the value and the power and independence that comes with money. So probably, not the best in terms of how I use my mama's money, but hey, I still ate and I still have money.
You were on it. You were independent. And that independence is like such a key word there too. Just thinking about the group that you started, it's about like financial independence, right? So
Yes.
I'd love to hear more about that, the group that you created and how that's going.
Well, like I said, when I was looking at my clients and thinking about what financial independence looks like, and there were so many people that were saying, I'm burnout, I'm tired, I want to retire, or my spouse or parents are not in the best of health, so I need to dial back. And they are coming to me more so to confirm what they already plan to do. But sometimes you just got to give them bad news. And I said, I never want to be in that situation. And so I would always run my own numbers and do my own financial plan alongside clients. And so I'm like, all right, if they're on target for this, let's see if what my numbers look like. And this is when I was starting at $0 because I didn't come from money. And so I knew I wanted to retire early. I didn't know how early I could make that. And I was talking to someone about, oh, I want to retire early. I'm going to save. I'm going to do all these things. And someone said, oh, the fire movement. I'm like, what the heck? So you get on the Google and so forth. And once I did that, I realized there was an entire community devoted to this. The unfortunate thing is, it's mostly people that don't look like me. And so I was in all of these groups, but the nuance of being a Black woman in this space
Mm.
and combating the fact that typically we're taking care of multiple generations. You don't have a financial foundation, you don't have a financial safety net. It's very different. And then just the institutional ways that race plays a part in our wealth. They were like, no, that doesn't exist. And we were kind of debating one day in a group about I think it was an article maybe 2 or 3, 4 years ago, and actually the same article comes out because it continues to happen, is where a couple was selling their house. They got an appraisal significantly lower than what it was supposed to be, Black couple. And then they changed up things, took the pictures off the wall, and had their white friends there with the appraiser. And then the number changed dramatically. And
Mm.
they were like, it's easy. You just do everything online. I'm like, no, everything from where you live, your name, there are a number of different things that people can put together and make assumptions about you. And especially as we talk about algorithms and so forth, and they are easily able to paint who you are, that is not simply the easy way for things to be equalized. And
Mhm.
so that was part of the conversation too. And I was like, you know what? We just need our own community. And so that's when I created a community for Black women on that same exact journey, because we are combating some of the same things as well.
Mhm. And I so appreciate you creating that safe space, just as someone who's in the Your Wealth Guidance group, just knowing that those are not things that are those aren't questions or issues that are gonna come up where someone's gonna be dismissive of your experience as a Black woman, because I've seen that in the other fire spaces too, where people just can't relate. And even if you can do everything online, you shouldn't have to. Like racism in any of this, right? But it is, and unfortunately, it's real. So I appreciate you making the space, and I'll also add that within the group, it's a safe space for people who don't necessarily have financial knowledge coming into it, which you did say, a lot of times we are just kind of starting out on our own. We don't have that background. We're just coming into it blind and having to figure things out. So I'm very appreciative of that. Related to just kind of not really having that background, what are some of the things that you see are the most pressing issues around money that you're seeing in our community?
I always see people more focused on credit scores than assets. And one thing that I continue to see in our community is people will spend money to fix their credit score, and that might take away from the assets that they hold. But at the end of the day, especially my time in wealth management, we would do all kind of exception loans because credit score didn't matter as long as you had assets. Assets are what's allow you to eat, retire, pay your bills, take care of the basic necessities. credit is if you want to have leverage. And so there is that. And then there is the fear of debt. We are so debt at birth instead of understanding the value of it. So I know a lot of people that are like, I'm trying to pay this off, pay this off, pay this off. And they are ignoring saving for things like retirement, their emergency savings. They're like, no, I gotta pay off my house. I gotta pay off this, I gotta pay off that. And really it's understanding the value that comes from having more flexibility in your cash flow and using that leverage well.
Mm.
So if you're able to look at, especially when you think about when rates were, crazy low, people are like, I don't want to buy a house yet because I don't want all that debt. Well, if you look at it, and if your debt is 4 or 5, 6%, but you're able to do something else with that money that provides you a return of 7, 8, 9%, really that return is paying for, or what we call servicing that debt. And
Mm.
so just understanding that kind of, I want to stay away from the debt, that's problematic as well. And then I think just really not having a plan. And I think it comes from fear and the unknown itself, and sometimes just being overwhelmed by how much information is out there. And so having some type of concrete plan in terms of what and where am I going, but then that plan for all the what ifs. I talk a lot about the estate planning side because typically as young women, people don't start to think about that until they're 60, 70 years old.
Mm.
But there's a lot of people that pass away and become disabled way before that. And that can be detrimental financially for your family, but also for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned so many words. All the words, so thank you. Definitely the piece around debt and the fear of that, and just fearing planning in general, because it's really that the lack of clarity that I think creates the fear. So if you kind of just get into it, some of that fear will subside. Once you face it head on, then some of that will go out the window.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to hear, just as someone is getting started on their wealth journey, where do you think that is the best place for them to begin?
I start with a vision.
Mm.
What do you want? There are a number of people who just they don't know what they want. And I'll tell a great story about when I first started working at the bank. I knew that people were investing. My family had not been investors or knowing anything about that. And I get my first paycheck and I go to see the investment guy in the branch and I'm like, I want a mutual fund. He says, okay, which one? A mutual fund for me. Yeah, duh. And he's like, what are your goals?
Mm.
To save money. He's like, no. Do you have a time horizon? What is your risk tolerance? Are you working towards something? And so I'm sitting in front of someone who could be of assistance to me, but he couldn't help me because I didn't know what the hell I wanted. Like I just knew I want a mutual fund. And so it's not the same thing as in walking into the grocery store and saying, I want eggs.
Mm.
There's so much more nuance to that. And so sometimes people are coming and they're saying, I want a specific answer. And it's like, no, do you want to retire early? Are you concerned about your children's education? Are you in debt? Do you want to be a first time home buyer? Do you want to be able to take just a simple career break and you're strategizing for that? So it's starting with a vision, and none of that is numbers related. The numbers come after you have a vision. But if you don't have a vision, people can sell you anything. So sometimes you look at what people have and you say, why are you invested in this? Or why did you do this? Or why did you structure things? And they're like, I don't know, somebody told me that. Were you able to challenge them and say, well, how will this allow me to retire 10 years earlier than the average retirement? How will this allow me to purchase my first house in 5 years? How will this allow my children to go to school and at least, even if I can't pay for the whole thing, that I can pay for half of it? So if you can't challenge the recommendations that people are giving you, you're kind of putting yourself in a vulnerable situation. And so I always say we start with the why, where you're going, what that vision is, more so than let's start with some numbers.
Mhm. I think that is beautiful. And people forget that the vision is what's going to keep you on track as you're working towards your goals. And so many times, just diving into the numbers can frighten people. So if you have something that's worth looking forward to, something you can aspire to, that may be what keeps you on track on the journey. So I love that.
Are there any specific resources or anything that you recommend that people check out? Of course, the group.
The group itself, and within the group, there is no one that knows it all. And so there's a number of professionals that do a number of things that kind of marry into each other for success. And so I started interviewing them as well. So check out our YouTube channel, Your Wealth Guidance, as well, with a number of professionals. So there are going to be partners, and I always talk about building your team. And so you want to build your team before you're there. So you don't want to wait until you win the $100 million lottery to find a decent accountant. You don't want to, wait until you are getting sued to find an attorney. You don't want to wait until the last minute of you're dead in the middle of your business formation, or maybe someone's trying to steal your intellectual property, and then you're going to find someone. So you want to find and put that effort in early. And so my biggest thing is building your team, and you can do that in a number of different places. You can ask people who are already there. So if someone is already working in the field that you're in, I'm actually reading a book. Can't remember her last name, Arlen. She's a venture capitalist, and she talks about how she started from nothing. But you can get on their newsletter. And so you can get information there. They're giving you free information all the time. You can look at their YouTube channels. You can go to events that they're hosting. You can go to their websites. Those are places that you can start to say, okay, I am building my team. So I need a tax professional. Let me start to talk about people that are in my lane. So if you're a business owner, what type of business owner? Are you a real estate investor? Do you own something in the tech field? Do you own a daycare, whatever that is, but somebody who kind of understands your actual business. And then as you go through, you need an attorney, you need a estate plan attorney, you need an attorney that might be for all these individual things that you do, and you want to build that in advance. And so I always say the first few minutes, a lot of people, the first few minutes you spend in bed, you're like just scrolling through all social media. A lot of those newsletters come out first thing in the morning. If they come out first thing in the morning, even if they come out that night, just save them for in the morning and glance through them. You can read just the highlights, you can read just a few things, and you might pick up something, whether it be new legislation that might impact you, whether it might be a strategy, they might be having a webinar or something like that that you can go to. Spend those first, 15, 20 minutes where you're like, I don't know if I want to get out of bed or not. Get you a little bit of information. I always think that that's a great way to start your day, and it can make you hungry for the next thing too. So somebody's going to mention a phrase and you say, never heard of that. Write it down, and let that be the next bit of your research as well. So, I mean, there's so much information out there. Don't go for the this is how you can make it happen fast or easy. You want a plan that's going to be more consistent.
Yes, you just dropped a lot of gems there as well, and I'm feeling very inspired to continue to build my team, because there are definitely areas where I need to learn and grow when it comes to finances as well. So I know where to start. So thank you. And one final question that I want to ask you is just, how are you focusing on healing yourself? What are some things you're doing to take care of yourself these days?
Saying no. I think that's the big thing is, especially as women, and I'm gonna say for me, especially as a Black woman, I'm like, child, I can do everything. I can run the world, I can cook, clean, all these. Like, no, sometimes it's just gonna be dirty. Sometimes I'm gonna have to reposition the camera so you won't see how dirty it is. Sometimes no, I don't want to go, and sometimes you could just change plans. And having a circle makes a big difference. And so that is a circle that checks in with you, regardless if it's a text or email. It's a circle that you can text and say, today ain't easy. And I have friends that I'd be like, and don't call me. Like, I just wanted to say that. I just want to say today ain't easy. I ain't in a good mood. I need a few good words from you, but don't call me. Like, I don't want to talk. But you just have to focus on that. I think sometimes we are stretched so thin. And not only that, there are so many things that are going on in the world around us that take so much out of us. And sometimes just to be still and just be still, be quiet, just listen. If you don't do it today, it don't need to be done. It'll be fine. There's very few things. I always say, there's nothing that I do that is saving someone's life. Some folks might be saving lives. Now, if you saving lives, you're in a different situation than me. there's nothing that I do that necessarily saves lives in the immediate. Um, which means they can wait. And I've had times and I've had to remind myself, you can cancel something. I remember I was supposed to actually hang out with somebody this weekend, and I said, this has been a long week. I don't think I can do, like, I need a moment to just be still. And she was like, girl, don't worry about it. And that's how I know I have the right circle, not people who are putting more weight on you in addition to everything else surrounding you.
Beautifully said. No is a complete sentence. So I am totally with that. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we close today?
I always say finances are so much like so many other goals in life. Yes, you might be able to get there quick by being super aggressive, but you might not be able to sustain. So much like, I've been on 1,000 diets and they be like, don't eat this and only eat for 1 hour a day, child. One day later, I'm like, I'm eating it all. And so come up with a plan, and then also have people that keep you accountable. Yes, because you want that circle to not only push you, but also support you. And so sometimes we have a group of friends that are just like, girl, yeah, that's good. Oh, you gonna quit? Yeah, that's good. Oh, you gonna, yeah. Some people need to say, you can do more.
Mm,
Didn't you say, you said you told me your vision was, and you didn't actually fulfill that. Has your vision changed, or are you just afraid? And so sometimes you need that challenge. And our friends are there to challenge you. And sometimes it's not going to be the friends that you grew up with or the friends that you hang out with on the weekends. You may need a circle that is dedicated to your vision. And that circle might be brand new, somebody that you don't know today, but don't be afraid of that. And then hold all the naysayers to the side and let them just see it. They don't need to hear about what you're going to do. Just show them the results.
mm, I love this. This was such a good conversation. I thought we were just going to talk about money, and here we are talking about friendship, everything. So thank you so much for joining me on the channel this week. This was so good. And everyone, please, please, please head over to the Your Wealth Guidance YouTube channel. I'm going to link it in the comments so you can check out their content as well. Join the group, get in the conversation, and also check out the folks who are showing up on the channel as well, because there are some great resources there. So thank you so much, Rosalyn.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the conversation. If you found this content valuable, please consider following Rosalyn's YouTube channel. It is called Your Wealth Guidance, and I will link it in the description below. Don't forget to like, share, and comment on this video, and subscribe to this channel as well if you're interested in having me review your astrology chart to see what's going on with your money. You can always reach out to me at homegirlastrology.com to book a reading. Thanks so much for being here. Peace, homies.